The GTX 1080 is currently the fastest single GPU card on the market. It's fantastic for games, no doubt about that. But how does it perform in a video production environment, specifically for GPU accelerated effects and CUDA support through Adobe CC? What's up guys, I'm Dimitri with Hardware Canucks, and the GTX 1080 is behind me in that PC, and this is the GTX 980 Ti. We'll be comparing these two cards today. I've been using the 980 Ti ever since launch for video production. It has been a fantastic card, but with a new performance king in games right behind me, how will that impact rendering times with Adobe Premiere and Adobe CC applications? Let's find out. Now, before I show you the benchmarks, which card do you think will win this test? Will it be the 980 Ti with more CUDA cores, more texture units, and more ROPs, but slower clock speeds and less VRAM? Or will it be the 1080, which has less CUDA cores, but faster clock speeds, more VRAM, which is also faster? For testing, I'm using my Skylake workstation PC behind me with these specs, and to establish some type of reference point for comparison of how much faster the new GTX 1080 is compared to the 980 Ti for gaming, here is the Firestrike Ultra test. And you can see the result with a 25% difference between the cards, which is fairly significant. Battlefield 4 is next, which gave me a 27% boost on the GTX 1080. Metro Last Light Redux showing a 20% boost. And finally, Armor 3 showing a 16% difference between the averages. But look at that fantastic minimum, which is totally playable. So no doubt, the GTX 1080 wins the gaming round. But surprise, surprise, when it comes to video production environment, that performance gap just closes. So we're gonna start off with Cinebench R15 OpenGL benchmarks, which shows an almost identical score. Moving over to Adobe Media Encoder, where we transcode native 4K files from the GH4 to Cineform codec, which is a lot more editing friendly. And this 11-second difference on a total of 11 files is truly not significant. Then I exported a 6-minute 4K project and a 1-minute 4K project, and you can see here the 980 Ti finished exporting that larger sequence 25 seconds faster than the GTX 1080. Now when we move away from the benchmarks, the only real difference that I've noticed between using these two cards is temperatures. The GTX 1080 staying much cooler at 53 degrees in idle and 66 degrees Celsius while at load while exporting stuff, while the GTX 980 Ti was at 66 degrees Celsius at idle. So you can see there's a huge difference there, and 83 degrees while at load. So seeing all these results, are you at all surprised to see no difference in rendering performance? Me, that's exactly what I was expecting. That's why I teased it a little bit, simply because driver support is not there yet. So retesting will have to be done as soon as both NVIDIA and Adobe side of things sort of come up with a cohesive driver that implements Pascal engine and better CUDA support with Adobe applications. We'll be doing retests as soon as they come out, but a perfect example here is that driver support is so important. It's not all about raw horsepower. A perfect example of Pascal being so fresh on the market and how it's not really utilized just yet is with Octane Bench. The 980 Ti scores 114 points, while GTX 1080 is not a supported GPU just yet because they have to redo the CUDA and the engine in Octane so that it can support the new Pascal architecture. And so the bottom line is the GTX 1080 is not a worthy upgrade for video production. As you saw, there was no difference in rendering performance between the two cards, yet such a large gap in gaming performance between the GTX 1080 and the 980 Ti. It all comes down to drivers, and I hope that NVIDIA and Adobe come up together to fix that problem with drivers, and hopefully having better driver support from the Adobe side of things for more officially supported GPUs for, well, more Maxwell cards and hopefully eventually Pascal cards too. And this concludes this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any suggestions on what type of software and production environment you'd like me to test the GTX 1080 in the future, I'll definitely be doing retesting with the card as soon as any patches or Adobe driver stuff comes out. So make sure to subscribe for that. And I'm about to start packing for Taipei for Computex. So we'll see you there. And actually we'll be editing you in the next sequence.